Hey, what's going on, guys? Tiered Pods here, coming back at you with another video, and I bet you weren't expecting this. Back-to-back tier list? What? Tony, the audacity, are you kidding? Now, I wanted to do it for one reason, basically. I know I was thinking to myself, I was like, I used to do tier lists like every week, sometimes even like every 4 days and stuff, and I've been doing them like every 2 weeks, and I was just like, you know what? The T-Pose tier list kind of got me into the mood. I was like, yeah, let's go ahead, give them a little double tier list action. I'm sure you guys will like that, right? So this one is obviously going to be the weapons tier list, but before we get into this video, guys, if you could drop a like on the video, I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you do, I will take a carrier pigeon and I will send each and every one of you a Kraft single slice of cheese. Now, only issue is I only have one carrier pigeon and I haven't exactly trained it because I just caught it in the wild. I found it actually on a bench. I think it might have been sleeping and I took it home. So if you don't get your cheese, please don't be upset with me, but I would appreciate it if you liked the video. So, weapon tier list. Now, what is this going to basically entail? Now, when I say weapon tier list, I'm going to be looking at the base weapons that are in here. Not looking at any of the customization for the weapons, because believe me, all weapons in this game look fucking beautiful. You can make them look insanely beautiful with the high gear score. Gear looks really good in this game. I'm not going to say that. I'm just looking at the weapon itself, kind of how I think personally. Like, I like the weapon. I'm more of a person who kind of likes more uniqueness to it. Not something to where you just kind of see it basically anywhere. When you look at like medieval games, you're probably going to see that one, see a certain weapon. If you see something basically out of the ordinary, I find that to be a kind of a higher tier because it's more unique and it's something different, right? So that's basically what we're going to be rating these on, the default weapons. The look of the default weapons is going to play a very, very minor part in it. It's mostly just how the weapon itself looks, not necessarily like the gear that they put on in the For Honor, like if it's got a nice color to it or any of that. That's not going to matter as much, more so the weapon itself. So that's what we're going to look at. And obviously, again, we're going to be rating this on a scale of S to D, D being dog shit, S being super sweet. Now, I have most of the names of the weapons down in front of me, but if I do get any of them wrong, I do apologize. I am not a weapons expert by any means. I just am going to say what I think looks fucking cool. That's basically it, yeah. So, let's hop right into this, and we'll start with the D tier. Now, starting off in the D tier is going to be Orochi's katana. Now, the katana is basically the standard samurai weapon. You see it very, very frequently in pretty much any game involving some samurai, and I think it's probably the most common sword used by them in media and anything like movies and video games alike. So, I mean, don't get me wrong, katanas are fucking sweet, but this one is just, seen basically everywhere, and that's why I had to put it in D. Next up in the D tier, we have Raider's Long Axe. Now, the Long Axe, again, cool weapon, don't get me wrong, but we do see this pretty much. It's a pretty common thing for Vikings to have axes, so this one being right here, a nice two-handed axe, is pretty commonplace to see in anything in Viking media, or like I said with the katana for Orochi, you definitely see these types of axes very frequently. So that's why I put it in D, just because, it's not as unique, and it doesn't really give me that wow factor right up front. The next weapon that we have in the D tier is the Longsword of the Warden. The Longsword is, it's just your, I guess you would say, a stereotypical knight sword. If you saw someone in, like, a movie or video game you're playing as a knight and they have a sword like this, you're pretty much going to see it on pretty much any game to where you can have gear where you're playing as like a knight or whatever and swords or something. You're probably going to get a long sword in there at some point. All right, it's definitely going to be a part of it because it's a very, very commonplace thing to see. It's a cool sword, don't get me wrong. All weapons look absolutely amazing, but this one, just because of how commonplace it is, we put it in D. And the final one in D is going to be Kensei's Nadachi. And you guys might be thinking to yourself, but Tony, that is your main. How do you not like Wopen? And the real thing with this is I do like the Nadachi, but at the end of the day, I mean, it's just a much larger katana at the same time. And looking at all of the other weapons in here, I just found that there is a lot more just base weapons that I like. Don't get me wrong. This weapon is freaking dope, and Kensei has some insane weapon designs that he can have with legendary gear and whatnot. I'm sure you guys have seen with the numerous Kensei videos I've uploaded. I've tried out a bunch of different blade combinations and everything, and they look sweet. Don't get me wrong, this sword is awesome, but compared to the other things, I just felt like I couldn't put it super high when I find that there's a lot more unique things that we can actually have in For Honor, and that we do have. And now we're going to be moving into the C tier. The C tier, I feel like we're going to start getting into a little bit more unique stuff, maybe doing the combinations of like shields and everything. I am also rating shield as part of the weapon because it's part of their kit. as well. So if someone has like a sword and shield combo, I'm not going to just look at the sword. I'm going to look at the shield as well, just because, that's kind of what they're marketed as having. So that's what we're going to be looking at. Starting off in C, we have Warlord, Sword, and Shield. I believe the sword is an Ulfberht. I'm not exactly sure if I pronounced that right, if I'm even correct, which the sword is a nice little one-handed sword, and the shield is obviously just a standard round shield to have. I like the combination of it. I personally like the bottom, the pommel area of the sword itself. I think that's a pretty cool design on it, and I think that, it's just a pretty standard combination, but it's not anything too crazy that we haven't seen before, so that's why it's in C, but it's still very nice. Next up in the C tier, we have Berserker's hand axes. It's, basically dual Viking hand axes, and again, it's like a long axe, but at the same time, it's two. So 2 axes is usually cooler than 1 axe, I think, personally. Even though they're much smaller in that, Raiders is pretty beefy and massive, I still think that these are just a little bit cooler in the sense that we see them. But again, we definitely see a lot of these hatchet-esque type axe weapons when looking at Vikings and whatnot. And again, I'm not trying to be historical, I'm just saying stuff that's like portrayed in video games and other types of media, but they're very cool, but I had to put them in C. Next up in C, we have Aramusha with the dual katanas. Now, again, like I just said with Berserker, better than 1 axe is 2 axes, and better than 1 katana is, well, 2 katanas, and that is exactly what Aramusha had. I wish, honestly, I'm going to actually go back out of here, because if you see on his hip right there, I believe those are called wakizashis. They're like much smaller than katanas. I kind of wish that he had a combination of like maybe 1 katana and one of those. I think that would have been really, really cool to see. But we do get the dual katanas, and they are really cool as well. And, the fact that we have 2 of them and he can dual wield them is pretty sweet. So that's why they're in C. Next up in the C tier, we have Valkyrie's spear and shield combination. I do like her shield, the way it's like got the 3 cutouts in it. I think that's very nice as opposed to something like just Warlord's traditional round shield. I think that's nice. And again, the spear is a pretty commonplace weapon. You see a bunch, obviously if you look at just a little example, like the movie 300, that whole entire movie is basically like spears and shields and stuff. So it's definitely used in video games and media alike, but it's nonetheless doesn't make it any less cool. It is pretty cool. But again, it's just something that I've seen before, so it didn't really blow me away when I first saw it. The final one that we have in the C tier is Shaman's Hatchet and Dagger. I don't know if the dagger is a kukri. It kind of looks like it is, but I'm not exactly sure on that. But the combination is pretty cool again, but these are pretty commonplace weapons. I was debating on putting this one higher because I do kind of like the dagger that she is given in this game. The hatchet is a pretty basic thing. It's pretty similar to that of Berserker's hand axes, and I honestly like how Berserker's axes look a little bit more than that. But with the addition of the dagger as well, I think it makes it pretty nice. And I was debating whether to put this in B or C, but it just ended up that we put her in C. Now we'll be moving into B tier. We'll start to see maybe a little bit more of like uniqueness to the weapons or whatnot, or maybe just like super, like if there are pretty commonplace ones that are kind of like super noticeable and like everyone loves as like their types of weapons, and I'll kind of get to that when I explain my ratings for them. But yeah, basically that's what we're gonna get. We're kind of on that cusp of like very commonplace ones to starting to see a little bit of like different designs in the weapons and whatnot. So first off in the B tier, we have Chandi's Dao Blade, which is a really nice curved sword. I really like how the end of the curve actually, kind of like dips in like that as well. It's a really, really cool looking blade. And I also quite like the tassel. I don't know if that's considered a tassel that's hanging on the bottom of it. I think that's just a nice little extra piece of flair to add on there, and that's pretty unique. You don't see that as much, but I had, the Dao Blade is a pretty commonplace weapon. You see it, I've seen it at least pretty frequently, so that's why I didn't put it super high, but it is a awesome looking weapon nonetheless. Next up in B, we have Sense Gladius. Now, before we even get into like talking about the Gladius, I have one gripe with this. They made the default Gladius look like absolute shit. I'm not even gonna lie. First off, that blade is rusty as hell. Just looking at it, I think, gave me tetanus. And then at the end of there, that ball on the end of like the pommel or whatever, I don't know what they're going for on there. It looks like fucking Bop It or something. About to, as I'm spinning this, it's just saying twist it, pull it. I don't know. It's weird. But the Gladius is a really, really cool weapon. I like the blade design of the Gladius really, really a lot, and I think that it's cool. You have seen them in, movies alike and whatnot, and other games as well, but it's a really cool looking sword, and it's not, traditionally what you see, something, it's not super commonplace, but it is something that you have seen before, but I just really like the design and how it looks. Not this one particularly, but as the sword as a whole. Next up, in the B tier, we have Peacekeeper's Silent Blades. That's what they call them on the For Honor site. I know that's not exactly what the weapons are called, but there's basically, it's just a sword and a dagger. Again, the combination is pretty cool. I like the combo of the sword and the dagger itself, and the way that she kind of wields them is pretty nice. Again, these are pretty commonplace weapons, but when you put them together, it makes it, a little bit more unique and pretty cool to see someone wield them. So that's why I put them in B, but again, it can't be any higher, I think. Next, in the B tier, we have the Monk Staff for Shaolin. Now, the staff is the most common Shaolin weapon. I learned that from Ranton. Thank you very much. But anyways, I don't know. I'm just really not a huge fan of staffs. But I mean, it looks cool, don't get me wrong, but me personally, I feel like maybe if I liked staffs just a little bit more, I might have rated this higher, but I don't know, it just really never appealed to me, and that's probably one of the reasons why I didn't play Shaolin. He's also a bitch, but that doesn't matter. But yeah, the weapon is still cool, but it's not something that really appeals to me. Next up in the B tier, we have the Sword and Shield of the Black Prior. I don't know exactly what type of sword this is or what type of shield it is, but all I know is that fucking shield is sick looking. It looks absolutely awesome. I love how it looks. The end of it is super sharp and pointed, and even in like some of Black Prior's executions, stabs them with the actual shield. So I find being able to use the shield as a means of weapon on there and the spikes going off the side looks really, really cool. The sword is more basic, and it's kind of, just like a one-handed sword. I don't really know too much about it. I mean, it looks alright, just looks like a sword to me, honestly, but the shield is the real factor, I think, when it comes to Black Prior's kit for weapons, and I think that's the reason that's in B. But if the weapon itself, the sword, was a little bit cooler, maybe it could have been higher, but for the meantime, it's just a B. And the final weapon in the B tier is going to be Highlander's Scottish Claymore. Now, pretty sure most people know what a claymore is. It's just a big fucking beefy sword. It looks absolutely awesome. I love claymores personally, and I was going to put this originally a little bit higher, but I was thinking to myself, claymores are, again, very, very commonplace. You see them around quite a bit, and, it's pretty much no surprise in some sort of medieval game to get a claymore added in there. Not, it's fucking sweet looking. Don't get me wrong. I love claymores. They're so sweet. But again, I'm just thinking to myself, I was like, yeah, you know what? I knew claymores pretty well up into this, and you know what? It's nothing too surprising, so we'll put it in B. And now we'll move into the A tier. And A tier is going to see a lot of different types of weapons that, me personally, I haven't seen too frequently in games or movies or anything like that. And I was like pretty surprised when I saw. I was like, oh yeah, that looks pretty cool. I could be completely wrong. I'm just speaking from my own opinion as well. Myself personally, you guys might have seen a lot of these weapons and might not have seen some of the weapons that I said a little bit earlier down on the list. But anyways, that's just what we're going to rate these on. So starting in the A, we have Shinobi's dual sights. I believe they're called the Kusari Gamas. I'm not 100% sure, but they're these just two one-handed scythe things that he gets, and as well as the chains to wrap around his arms to do the, the extended range attacks and stuff it's a really cool looking weapon. It's like, very, Scorpion-esque, get over here pulling people with the weapon and whatnot. It's really cool looking. The weapons were sweet. When I saw Shinobi, I was like, yeah, this is a pretty sick weapon. But then Shinobi came out and I was like, wow, this character's a piece of shit. And I still think that, but nonetheless, Shinobi does have cool weapons. I do shit on Shinobi a lot, but I will give them their credit. The weapons are pretty damn cool for the Shinobi. Next up in A, we have the Hitokiri's axe. It's some sort of battle axe. I don't know the exact name on it, but it is really, really cool looking. The one thing, it's like a double-ended axe, which I feel is extremely dangerous for both the person getting hit and the person swinging the axe, which is, I don't know how historically accurate this is, or really any of the weapons per se. I mean, I guess, like long swords and claymores obviously were used, but I don't know if some of these unique ones aren't really weapons that were used and they were more just kind of fantasy elements that they put into this game. But you guys can let me know that in the comments. But I really love the way it looks, and I love the differing shapes of both ends of the blade. Like, one's really thick and obviously one's thin, the one that you see on the right. And I just really like how it looks. Next up in A, we have Nobushi's spear, which I believe is called the Naginata. I'm not too sure. It's like a polearm type weapon. It's just a very long staff with a just absolutely sharp blade on the end. It is quite a fucking long weapon now that you look at it, right? It's probably taller than Nobushi herself, but it is a really, really sick looking weapon, and the blade itself is really cool, and it's, it's just sharp. It's a pokey weapon. It's a slashy weapon. You can do whatever you want with it, honestly, and it's really, really nice looking. I am a fan of it. Going from another type of polearm weapon to this one right here is Jang Jun's weapon. I believe it's the Guandao, and it's basically Nobushi's weapon, but a whole fucking lot beefier. and let me tell you, I'm slightly aroused while looking at it. It is an awesome looking weapon. Both of them are really cool. I actually really like the thin blade on Nobushi's. It's kind of elegant looking, if I will say. But this one is just a massive. It's beefy. He swings this thing very, very hard, and it's really cool. The type of animations that they use, like with these weapons and whatnot. And I just really like how this one looks on JJ's. The final weapon in the A tier is going to be the Conqueror's Flail and Shield. Now, a little fun fact for you: it is apparently called the Footman's Flail. It was named by this on the dev, and it says that on the For Honor site, actually. So that's why I'm bringing that to you. And it's basically, as you can see, it's a flail and a shield. A flail is just a cool weapon. It's just a chain with a spike ball on the end. You swing it and smack people in the face with it. Even the bottom pommel right there is spiked, and that's cool. And then the shield itself also has spikes on it. And you see Conqueror use a shield for certain executions as well. And, you know, as well as like wrapping people up with the flail and swinging it around. As we know, Conqueror really likes to swing the flail in executions. But it's a cool weapon for sure. I feel like flails are kind of underappreciated. Even though they might be a little bit more commonplace, I still think it's a pretty unique weapon that you don't see at least used too frequently. You know, everyone kind of knows like what a flail is, but you don't see them too much. And I really like how it looks, so that's why it's an A. And now we are moving into the S tier. And the S tier are basically my favorite weapons from this game, which I think are the coolest. And honestly, they're very unique to me. I hadn't seen too many of them, you know, kind of before going into this. And I was like, when I first saw them, I was like, oh yeah, that's new. And that just looks absolutely awesome. So that's what the S is going to be for me. And starting off in S is Shigoki's weapon. Of course, you guys are going to be like, yeah, Tony biased towards Shigoki. Yeah, we have the Kanabo here, right here. I believe that's what it's called. I'm not exactly sure if that's how it's pronounced, but it's just it's a spiked club, different forms of the club as well, but it's just a massive club that is just only the mightiest of men can swing, or women, and Shigoki is that man or woman, and he does it very well and just smacks people with it. It's not very a slash weapon, but it's more like you smack it into someone so hard that it gets stuck in them type of weapon. You have to have a lot of force behind this, and it's a really sick looking weapon, and definitely the different types of forms of it are pretty cool. But looking at the base one, still, I would not want to get hit by that. Believe me, just all those spikes everywhere and everything is just absolutely terrifying. And this is a menace of a weapon. Next in the S tier, obviously the most versatile weapon in the game is going to be the Lawbringer's poleaxe. And the only thing I don't really like, at least about the default one, is I feel like they made the axe head super, super small in comparison to a lot of the other ones. I mean, if you just look at this one, it's pretty damn tiny, but then I can like swap it up to ones that are much more massive. For example, on this one, like the Rivalin axe is way more massive, and I know there's other ones as well, but these ones seem kind of tiny. And you know, at least for the default one, that's like the size of Berserker's axes, but it's got so many uses on it. You can hit them with the butt end at the bottom, which is not really a butt end, it's still a spike. You can hit them with the spike at the top, and then you can hit them with the axe. Again, versatility is the name of this weapon, and it is actually awesome. I hadn't seen really anything like this, and it's a really cool weapon. Next up in S tier, we have Nushia, and I don't ever want to put Nushia in the S tier, but you can't deny these weapons are sweet, the hook swords. I don't remember who it is, but the only time I've ever seen this is I believe a character in Mortal Kombat uses them. I can't remember their name off the top of my head, but they are absolutely insane. You know, you can hook them together as Nushi has done in some different executions. You know, you can just stab them with the ends near the handles, and they're just a super unique design to them with the hooks looking, you know, like candy cane-esque, or, you know, like a hook, which is why they're called hook swords. But super, super unique weapon. Love how they look. Just even this default one is beautiful looking to me, and I think it's awesome. Nushia is shit. Don't like her, but the swords are fucking sweet. And finally, in the S tier, we have Gladiator with the Trident and the Buckler. The Buckler, obviously, pretty commonplace shield to have on, you know, basically anyone, especially like a gladiator going into the ring trying to have to fight. Having one of those Buckler shields is pretty common to see. But the Trident itself is an awesome looking weapon. I feel like you definitely don't see this too frequently, but I feel like the usability of this weapon would be pretty solid, right? I mean, you've got nice range on it. You can poke and stab a bunch of people. You can slash them, and it's got a lot of range to it, and it's just really cool looking. You know, you feel like fucking Poseidon when you go onto the battlefield with this thing, and that's power right there. So I love the way the Trident looks, and it's obviously one of my favorites. So guys, that's going to do it for the weapon tier list For Honor. I hope you guys do enjoy. Keep in mind, obviously, you know, this is just my opinion. Don't get really upset if I put your main in the very, very bottom of the tier list. I put my own main in D tier. just because I thought that there were other weapons out there that I personally liked a bit more. Let me know what your guys' favorite weapons are, you know? Obviously, people are going to be having varying opinions in this video, so that's completely fine. Just voice yourself in the comments, and I'll try to read all of them, you know, respond back with some feedback. I greatly appreciate your guys' support. That's why I went ahead and did the back-to-back tier list. We probably won't get a third one in a row. Don't get too ahead of yourself. But we will be getting other tier lists that people have recommended, you know, people like the Out of Stam, I believe, like, Breathing tier list is one of them. Ledge Scream tier list is another one. Like, we have a lot of stuff to make. Even Effect tier list is still another one to make. So we will get those soon. Don't worry. And like I said in the beginning of the video, I would really appreciate it if you would leave a like on the video and comment and subscribe if you guys are new. And, you know, it's been your boy Tony. I'll talk to you in the next one. Peace.